were the Warriors doing last night? It's like they let go of the rope mentally and emotionally. Now, they'll grab it again, I guess. But the Lakers were great last night. They can win this whole thing.
Let me say this about the Warriors. They are shooters. They were 6 of 17 in the fourth quarter. That's terrible. Lonnie Walker, the fourth, had the same amount of baskets as the entire Warriors team in the fourth quarter. You know, you're always on me about the fact that I said that when Kevin Durant went to the Suns, they were immediately the best team. And you always say, no, teams need time to gel. I'm looking at the Lakers. They got guys up at 2 a.m. That's my schedule. That's my wheelhouse.
Yeah, that's about, yeah, you could handle that.
I could do that.
79
years old.
Look, I mean, I'm late in the father game, okay? I was 49, and that seems ancient.
That's like John Tyler. He had children, and his children had children in their 70s. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Knicks lose, the Blackhawks win hockey's next phenom. Tim Ledford joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with the Lakers holding serve at home and beating the Warriors last night 104-101 to take a 3-1 lead in their series. The surprise star was Lonnie Walker, the fourth, but 15 points in the fourth quarter. And I add parenthetically that the Knicks lost to Miami. So, Wilbon, you were 0 for 2 last night. Thank you. Back to the Lakers. What are your thoughts on what the Lakers did and how they did it?
Tony, I mean, the Lakers were great. They were great defensively. They were great in terms of their role players like Lonnie Walker. I mean, Lonnie Walker, the fourth. Let me not shortchange him, his lineage. Tony, and LeBron was just controlling. Just controlled the game. And Anthony Davis, while he didn't contribute much offensively after halftime, was great defensively the whole game. I mean, how many guys 6'11" can guard the rim and get out to get the left hand up in front of Steph Curry? And he led Steph Curry into those shots. I mean, I know Steph Curry.
Lottery. And the moment Chicago got the number 1 pick, I texted you and I left you a voicemail. You did not return either, which led me to believe you were afraid that Chicago was going to trade the number 1 pick to Carolina like the Bears did in the football draft. Now, in terms of expectations on this kid, you mentioned 2 names. You mentioned Crosby and you mentioned Kane. I'll mention Alex Ovechkin. They each won a Stanley Cup.
Yes.
I don't know how good this kid is. His numbers are fantastic, but I don't know how good he is. Let's leave out Gretzky and Lemieux, okay? But he's probably better than the standard number 1 pick. So the comparison I would make is LeBron James to DeAndre Ayton. And if that's a valid comparison, then the Stanley Cup is a valid expectation.
Yeah,
it really is.
It might be coming.
And his
coming
numbers
back to Chicago, baby.
His numbers are incredible. Just one set of numbers. 71 goals and 72 assists in 57 games in the Canadian Junior League he just played in. 143 points in 57 games.
It's incredible. Stop trying to make it like I was upset when the Bears traded the No, I wasn't upset. I'm thrilled. We didn't need the number 1 pick. We traded down and got picked. That's your thing. No, last
night, Lonnie Walker, I mean,
they had 23 games, not 9. They had more games than the Suns, a lot more.
I agree with you on the larger point here, that I think either the Warriors or the Lakers could actually win the title, because there are no great teams out there, and both these teams are pretty good. We'll move to another story.
Yeah.
All right, Wilbon.
Flawed.
This is the story you've been waiting for. Connor Bedard, the clear number 1 hockey prospect, who people have been talking about for years, somehow landed with your Chicago Blackhawks. As yet, though, there is no word if the envelope was frozen. So I ask you, what expectations are fair to place on this still 17-year-old player?
I don't know about fair. Sports has no play in fair. No play. I mean, I know the expectations. I'm going to tell you one sign of the expectations in Chicago, greater Chicagoland. In 4 hours last night, after the draft lottery was won by the Blackhawks, and that was 6 p.m. Central Time until before midnight, like 10:30 p.m., the Blackhawks sold, we're told, $3 million plus worth of new season tickets. Those are expectations. I don't care if they're fair. People changed the rules for this kid. They changed the rules in Canada to get him on teams when he was 15. He was underage. He's that good. They think he's Crosby impact, that size. Maybe not that big yet. He's 17. The last time the Blackhawks had this sort of situation. They drafted Patrick Kane. How'd that turn out? Let's move to the uncertain future of Bob Huggins. The Hall of Fame West Virginia basketball coach used an anti-gay slur twice on Cincinnati radio yesterday. He issued an apology via Twitter 4 hours later, reading in part, quote, "There are consequences for our words and actions, and I will fully accept any coming my way," close quote. The university says the matter is under review and will be addressed. Tony, you see Huggins keeping his gig after this?
He could make it easy on everybody if he just resigned. He's 69 years old. He's in the Hall of Fame. With more public contrition, he could probably temper the awfulness of this incident. And I'm sure that's being discussed, on higher levels as we do this show. But if he wants to keep his job, I will tell you that I think he's a hard guy to fire because he's a West Virginia grad. He's the D1 active leader in total wins. 806, I think if they want to keep him, there's going to have to be a lengthy suspension, 10 to 15 games, maybe even a whole season. And I think he's going to have to talk about this all the time. I don't think Mikey can shut it down and say, "I've talked about it, I'm done." No, you're not done with this. You're going to have to keep talking about it.
I agree. Something else struck me, Tony, in reading what he said, specifically what he said, the words he used. Huggins has to know that, there's some parts of the language that offend, and it's a little cloudier. It's a little murkier. There's a little gray. You may say, well, they may be offended, but they may not be. No. Not this. What he said, which, by the way, so many of us have used that phrase in decades past, and the language and the culture changed. And you can't do it anymore, and you haven't been able to for some time. And you have to be living under many of us said 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. No matter what our fathers said and our coaches said and your boys said, no, you got to know that's just stupid. It's offensive and it's stupidly offensive. How dumb do you have to be to not know that is going to get you in trouble? So, Tony, I agree with your assessment of what may happen, but if they want to fire him, if they want to, fine. If you're that dumb at this stage at nearly 70 years old, maybe you ought not be employed.
He made a good and thorough apology, and at least he didn't say, "I'm sorry if I offended anybody," because, in fact, he offended everybody. And I think he knows that. Let's take a break. Coming up, why are the Heat playing so well? We're going to ask Tim Legler.
We'll also ask him about tonight's big game, 5s between the Sixers, Celtics, I-95. And the
playoffs with our great friend, our personal friend, ESPN NBA analyst Tim Legler. Tim Legler, when he's been really good, his team has won. When he's been really bad, his team has lost. How do you explain the sort of wild ups and downs of James Harden?
I wish I had the words to describe it, because you're talking about these fluctuations, and I really don't think I've ever seen a player on his level with that kind of talent. You're talking about an MVP of the league with that great a disparity between floor and ceiling in the same series. I mean, it's when he's been good in this series, he's been the best player in the league, right? In 2 of those games, he did things that only he could do because of his style of play, the strength, the handle, the shooting ability, the ability to get to the lane, and then the passing ability, which is a critical part of what he does. And then on the nights when he hasn't been very good, it's not even a winning formula for the Sixers. You can't overcome it because he's got the ball all the time. He loses aggressiveness. He doesn't look confident. He doesn't even read situations properly when he should show for Game 4. Game 1, I actually thought Embiid not being there took the pressure off of him, and he relaxed. Nobody was expecting him to win that game. He tested the waters early. He found his jumper. He said, you know what, if you're going to play me this way and I can have certain matchups, I'll go ahead and have a big night. 2 and 3 were some of those moments where you scratch your head. Game 4 is the one that I'm surprised by. I didn't know if he had that in him after 2 and 3. He was incredible in that game, and he's now made this, he's downsized this series to a best of 3, and they've got a legit shot because they've got 2 incredibly dominant offensive players.
All right, speaking of 2 and 3, people are both excited and on edge out here in the desert, Tim, for tonight in Denver with the Suns and Nuggets. And the Suns have won 2 straight games, been very impressive, although both those games were in Phoenix. I thought they could have been doomed when Chris Paul went out of the series. How is Phoenix doing?
But the floor leader, right? The security with the basketball, taking the pressure off Devin Booker so he doesn't have to handle it against pressure and get 30. Right now, Devin Booker's got the ball in his hands all the time, and I thought it was going to be a problem, but here's ultimately what's going on in this series. First, you're watching a guy on one of the great postseason runs any of us have ever seen. Booker was already a great player and a great scorer, certainly. Kevin Durant has now taken his game to a completely different level because of the gravitational pull that he has on defenses. When he's got the ball on one side of the floor, the way defenses shift, when it comes out and gets to the other side, Devin Booker has more room, more comfort zone than he's ever had. And he's got the skill to take advantage of it on every platform. So you're watching now the best offensive tandem in the NBA playing together. So that's first to how you turn this around. But there's been another change. Like Denver all year lauded as maybe deepest team in the league. If a couple of games, Phoenix's bench has been fantastic. Landry Shamet basically helped them win that game. Denver's just been okay. That's where, if I'm Mike Malone, I'm calling those guys out and challenging my bench in the film room to have a greater impact, particularly in those home games when role players are felt. But that's really what's turned it around. Booker and Durant have been unstoppable, and their bench has come through in a much bigger way than we thought they could.
I will get you out of here on this. Ask for a relatively short answer. The Heat beat the Knicks last night. They are now up 3-1. Why is Miami playing so much better than people thought they would or could without Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo?
Well, I think some of it is, to be fair, a little bit the path. They got a Milwaukee team without 2.5 games with Giannis Antetokounmpo. So let's be fair